지적한 당시에 산레스기 비밀적으로 총종 학생들만의 참여된 아니 홍보대를 됐습니다. 제 다음 신문 용라 참여되시는 시행이 아니 드링기 제림디 조 인게 돈을 아니 당보 주주가거나 송셰시는 게래 뒤중에 아니 지워지는 요래 아니 단단하죠 들라 반방이요 그래서 반라 대중면은 아니 굳이 반반도저가 아니 싫어요. On behalf of the Tibetan Youth Association in Europe and Swiss Tibetan Women's Organization Section Hassan Drama, I would like to welcome Tenzin Tsundue as well as everybody here today to this public talk. Today's program is going to be short but sweet. We're going to have a talk by Tsundue, followed by a question and answer session. And we also have 2 photographers here, so if anybody doesn't want to be pictured in a photo, then please let them know. Yes, so Tenzin Tsundue is, as probably all of you know, a Tibetan poet, a writer, and one of the most renowned Tibetan activists we have. He has been arrested 16 times, has gone to Tibet and was arrested there as well. And now, without any further ado, Tsundue, please come on.
만 랑제 검슈쇼스 간마 수충줄과 대는 그냥 통서 말인 거예요. 그게 아니야. 라서 드린데 나도 저 믹스에 된지 해봐. 뭐 도잖아. 아주 잘 이번에 쇼라나 용샤샤를 지게 안 대이번에 미규빈이 뒤즈네 같이 미규빈이 뒤즈 매베기야 스치네가 그래지 구도와 비무선자는 나서 믹스에 뒤즈 된지 해봐 다디나도 되게 마공이 근데 요 sarva ani di pazo ki vichete sarva ya injinashi kan dinawo ya da kala inji mamong ni 그게 미션 양상 이 미션 양상 어떤 나 그게 시에 인지 시에 강의 명예지 가리 시에 되고 안 가리 인지는 제가 인지 그게 시에 인지 시에 그래서 So as I was saying, I'm grateful. I'm very happy to see you first, and also thank you very much for making this time and coming here in this short notice. I'm here on a series of speaking events. Firstly, I want to thank the Tibetan Women's Organization. They invited me as a part of Geneva Summit for Human Rights and Democracy. It's mainly because of that I was able to come. I had come to Switzerland earlier, and that was in 2008, so you see it's been such a long time. I usually do not accept invitations just for one-off programs, because I try to keep my focus on my activities in India and try not to spare myself for other countries, because I believe in all countries there are enough number of Tibetans who are already doing wonderful work in those places, and they understand the politics of those countries, and they have duty to do that in those countries. Firstly, out of respect, I try not to go to other places and assume that you are doing your best in those countries. And if there is any failing in India, it's on us, me, and there are a number of people back in India. So that's my ways of looking at it. But sometimes it just happens that there is a place for Tenzin Tsundue to do something practical there, and that's the time when I have to step up and come. This afternoon, I want to focus on one or two couple of things, and then perhaps later we can discuss. And the first thing is, why are we here? Why have we come here? And why, out of all these places in Switzerland, you, a group of people, have to come together to listen to us on Tibetan? I think that question, why am I here, is a pertinent question that we all must try to answer. Why are we here? We're here because we are all in one boat, the boat called Tibet. And the string that tugs at our heart is Tibet. It's led by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. We are all here out for a cause. And therefore, even though you don't know me personally, even though I do not know you personally, I can still say, Tibetan, come here, let's talk and discuss things closer to heart. But that's why we are here. The issue of Tibet is still not resolved after 70 years. And at many times we do feel that it's getting worse. Years by years and years, we see that it's getting worse. And sometimes when the opposition is overwhelmingly powerful, when you think that I don't stand or we don't stand any chance for Tibet, that the economic, political, military power of China is so big that we sometimes lose any sense of hope. We think that we will never be able to return. Sometimes we feel this. Yeah? We feel us and we see ourselves so very small and insignificant in the face of China's military activity. Sometimes we do. And as human beings, we do see this when United States has to suffer facing China as a challenge. And where are we then, right? Just a handful of Tibetan refugees. But at the same time, we must also see that we had achieved tremendous success in the past 70 years. You know, when we lost independence of Tibet, we were nowhere. We were nobody. No one knew anything about us. People looked at our face and said, either Chinese or Nepalese. No one had any idea of Tibet. You know, today in New York or also in London or also here in Europe, people of the Himalayas, Nepalese, Sherpa, Tamang, other people, they like to associate themselves as Tibetans. Why? It's mainly because we have a whole value, a culture that is much more valuable than other people's money, other people's weapons and political clout. We have this. And this is a unique culture that His Holiness the Dalai Lama has been telling us again and again, especially reminding younger generation Tibetans, be Tibetan, hold on to this religion and culture. That's the core essence of the Tibetan culture. So I want to dwell a little bit on this, because this is essentially the nature of Tibetan culture. This is essentially who we are. Because Tibetan identity is not just defined by the complexion of our face or size of our eyes, but just the different eccentricities of Tibetan customs. It's not this. There's something deep in it. And this is what I want to speak about it today. There's a lot of debate already among the younger generation Tibetans. Who are we? Why am I a Tibetan? And what do I value this? And yet we see extremities. There are Tibetans who are born to Tibetan who have always been saying, I am this thing and that. But many of them have not really gone deep into understanding Tibetan religion and culture. It's just like, oh, that's it. But then there are others who may be living on the periphery, so very far away from the mainstream Tibetan community. There are people who are mixed marriages. There are people who are from other communities and yet closely linked with Tibetan religion culture, that essentially they have this thing called Tibetan culture in their mind. So you see, there are these extremities, and these are extreme points that help us understand where we are and who we are as Tibetans. So today, in 21st century, and here in Switzerland, in Zurich, when you are living in amenities, in physical forms that is most advanced in terms of physical material comfort and convenience, facilities, science and technology. If you could avail, then everything is possible and available there. In this phase, if you ask, why am I a Tibetan and how am I a Tibetan? I think these are the essential questions that is being asked and be asked again and again. I've myself, thought about it again and again. I've written about it also. And my conclusion and my understanding is this, that all civilizations have an end goal. And there was a point of time when the Tibetan civilization defined end goal for glory, for victory. And that was the time between 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, right up to almost about 11th century. Tibetans created the biggest military power, military empire in Asia. We ruled certain parts of China. We ruled certain parts of Mongolia. Our military empire territory extended almost up to Iran and Iraq. Entire Himalayas were part of Tibet. That was the time when Tibetans felt that killing people, occupying land is victory. There is great success in it. This is the end goal of civilization. And then the Tibetans had a new understanding, a revolutionary understanding, and that is receiving Buddhism from India. Now, Buddhism is a very interesting thing. It's a very small idea, and that changed the Tibetans forever. Where we earlier thought that by killing people and occupying land and conquering other empires, we thought that that's victory, that's success. With the embracing of Buddhism, we understood that if you have to kill, it's not people. You have to kill your anger. If you have to conquer, occupy, conquer your greed, not other people, not other countries. There's no glory in it. In fact, this conquering other lands and killing people only begets you more pain and suffering to yourself and to others. While if you're able to kill your anger and conquer your greed, it brings genuine happiness in our lives. This then started to become a new culture in Tibet. But what has not changed? Remember this, as I'm saying. But what has not changed with the Tibetans? And when I say this, I tell you, every time when I say it and when I feel it, it gives me a great sense of pride in saying it and trying to say it to other people. What has not changed is the unflinching courage of Tibetan people to face whatever difficulties they are willing to give their life. That courage. Where they used to think that I will kill to achieve that victory, now the Tibetans are willing to give their life to achieve that genuine happiness for your life, for your country, and also in the enemies. That courage, that unique courage in search of truth, defines the Tibetan people. Demba Tsoyaki Shuba Mebe Potochi Shena Meba Matse Kani Kandiji Queen Donglen Chechen Guche to Eki Low Deep Top Pebe Pebe Viriki Tumo Mike Samuch Digi Cheto Moma So Lingir Tanda So Tangi Low. So this courage with which you are willing to give even your life in search of that higher truth, that hasn't changed. And that is continuing even today. Today, with non-violence, we are seeing not only a freedom for Tibet, we are seeing that we can still maintain a relationship with China, that we can look at China as our neighbor. We would like to see China as our neighbor. While in many other countries, in their experiences of either occupation or war, the relationship is spurned and they never become friends or neighbors ever again. But we are willing to see this. So therefore today, when we look at this situation where we are, that we are not only in exile, our country is being decimated, and there is very little hope, physically if we actually look outside. But on the inside, because of our courage in practicing our religion and culture, we are able to see, and I very often say this again and again, that our country may not be free today, but we are. Our country may not be free today, but we are. And the reason why I say that we are free is because we are not essentially gripped by this anger, hatred, and greed. For us, it's a constant process of freeing ourselves. We have not achieved anything, but we are in that process because that we have made that an aspiration for us. So I would like to remind ourselves today who we are, why we are here, and even though we are not directly able to see a free Tibet in the near future as such, but we are in the process. We are on that path. And that's why there is a reason to celebrate the religion and the culture that we all like to belong. That's a very difficult thing to practice also. And that too, personally, is difficult to practice. And therefore, in the beginning, I was thanking you for the time, because coming to foreign countries, I have seen how engaged people are. That even relatives are not able to meet, families are not able to meet or spend what is called quality time. So I know that you have come such a long distance, and many of you have even paid a lot of money in coming here and all those difficulties. But in the process, we must also be aware and make sure that you do not end up becoming one of the others who are in the rat race of making only money. That will be such a misfortune. Financial resources are important, and this could sustain yours and many other people's lives. But we must always remember that is not the end goal, and therefore avoid, losing yourself in the mad rush. I was speaking in Bern yesterday, and there were a number of other Tibetans. Of course, there I was speaking in Tibetan. I know many of you are breadwinners. I know many of your earnings help sustain lives in India and also in Tibet. But more than what you earn, your life, both your physical hygiene, health, and also your mental health and balance is more important. And if we also end up in that mad rush without really taking care of yourself, there is a danger that we may end our life in that way. Spend a little more time for yourself, for your family. Try to work maybe 5 days a week. At least keep 2 days free. If not to at least 1. Do not overwork. I who do not make any money in the West, I who never have done any salary job, you may think like, what does it know about earning money? I do not earn money, and you all know this. But what I know is about hard work. I've worked in the freedom struggle for 25 years without breaks. And this is what I know. What is hard work? But there is a difference. I work so that I am happy. You work because there is an income coming. There is something that is coming back to you. So that there is a difference. Even if I work my entire life, I will never be tired or exhausted. I'll never feel that. In fact, I may be more rejuvenated and more invigorating from inside. There is a difference. But I do know a little bit about working hard. So, going back to the idea of Tibetanness, when we say that we are on the path of happiness, our happiness does not come just from physical material world. Our happiness comes from your capacity to be more kinder, patient, forgiving. That capacity is the source of your happiness. Of course, you do make money, and that will depend on help many other people. But never miss this point. Your capacity to be happy comes from yourself. To be kinder, more patient, more forgiving. These are your capacity, and that this does not depend on anybody else. It is purely your own. And it comes from a lot of self-training. Of course, you can listen to other people, but purely you have to practice this. And the more you are able to practice, the more courageous you become. To a point that you may become fearless. To a point that you become inviolable, that no one can violate you, that no one can make you angry until you allow yourself to be. So these are the emotional intelligence one can learn from our own religion and culture. And His Holiness has always said emotional psychology has been most explored and developed in Buddhist psychology. I'm not saying all these things on my own. I've learned, I've read, and I've listened to His Holiness, and His teachings give me a great sense of inspiration and gives me this courage to go on like this. So I'm only sharing what little thing I have learned. Perhaps it sounds a little different in English than in Tibetan, because very often we take things for granted when things are said in perhaps it sounds a little different. And it sounds more practical, because there is a difference in the way it is spoken in different languages. Yeah, so essentially this is all that I wanted to say. I wanted to share with you this. And one last point, and then perhaps if there is any question we can discuss. Politically, now we are in a situation where China is vulnerable for the first time. There was a point of time right up to 2019, beginning of 2020. There was a point of time everybody is dependent on China. Everybody wants to appease China. But since the COVID time, since the American trade war, since China invaded certain parts of India and had this clash with India, since China made enemies with Japan and Australia, China's relationship with many of these countries changed. And these changes are going to have more impact and far-reaching effects in many other countries. This change in China's international relations is opening up a lot of opportunities for us. Now we cannot say it is not working. Now it completely depends on us. How are we going to explore and take advantage of these situations? And therefore, you being here in one of the most developed countries in the world, you have a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of things you can do. You may not immediately be able to change Switzerland's foreign policy, but there may be many other small efforts you can make, and these footholds are there in Swiss diplomacy. Whether it's in the organizational capacity or individual capacity, with the media, in diplomacy, in the academic lines, and also the cultural front, film festivals, literature festivals, music festivals, food festivals, find footholds. If we are willing and if you are resourceful, one can always find a new foothold. You don't have to carry Tibet flag all the time in the street and say Puranzin, but if you get into this practicality where you are good in, one can always find a foothold and lead Tibet to a new direction. And this is what we all can do. And you are uniquely placed to do that very work. So this is what I wanted to share with you. And so if there is any question, comments, we can discuss now. Thank you.